Hey, and welcome to this week's video. It's us again, making a show podcast type style film.
Yeah.
I'm talking with my brother Joseph.
Hi.
We are over Skype, so it is a little different, but
Over FaceTime.
or
Get it correct.
FaceTime, yeah, whatever the brand is. But he's in Virginia Beach, and I'm in South Carolina, so that's why it's a little different. But this week we wanted to talk about some embarrassing stories. I don't know how embarrassing these are really, but we came up with a few stories because we've heard a little bit of feedback from people, and they say that they like to hear the stories that we talk about.
Yeah.
So
apparently that's the only thing that gets people to feedback on this channel right now.
yeah. So I know what first we're going to talk about is, this wasn't a super embarrassing story, but I remember.
Yeah, yours is a lot less embarrassing than mine.
Well, the story I wanted to talk about was about, we were in Boy Scouts, like we've talked about on a couple of other episodes before. And when we were at Boy Scouts, I remember one specific time we were doing a backpacking hike, to where like we backpacked to a certain area a couple miles in, and then we drop camp, we set up our stuff, and then that night after we dropped our stuff, we were making dinner. And I guess it wasn't dinner, it was breakfast in the morning. So we had eggs we were gonna make, and so we didn't have a spatula because we little crouton Boy Scouts, and
Weren't prepared.
we weren't prepared.
Not for eggs.
Yeah, definitely. Which was kind of a regular thing for us. And so our scoutmaster, he said, well, I have a spatula. You can use it, but I want it cleaned and brought back to me. And I'm like, oh, okay, we'll do that. So we started to make our eggs. We did all that. That was fine. After we made our eggs, we ate our eggs, and then it's time to clean up. So we started cleaning up, and I'm like, it'd be really easy. This has got like a lot of grease on it, so I'm just going to hold it over the fire, get it to burn off, like, like a grill. A grill, you turn the grill and it burns off all the excess, like, stuff that's on there. And so I'm like, I'll put it over this, not thinking the spatula was plastic. And so as soon as I put it over the fire, it started cooking. It started cooking and becoming bubbly because it was plastic. And I remember, I can't remember exactly how the Scoutmaster found out. I mean, he found out. It was his spatula. We didn't get to bring it back to him.
It was his favorite spatula.
Yeah, but I remember once he did find out, he was like, who did this? And I'm like, I did. Yeah. He's like,
You shouldn't have confessed.
He was like, why did you think to put a plastic spatula in the fire? And I didn't have anything I could tell him about it. So I think his logic was, after he got kind of a little bit angry for me ruining his spatula, and it was his favorite spatula, I think his later on he kind of just dropped it, and I think his logic was, I know in a previous episode we talked about him ripping Joseph's hammock, and I think it was like,
on the AT.
Joseph and me, because we were brothers, I didn't buy him a spatula, and he ripped Joseph's hammock.
You didn't replace mine.
Yeah, so I think he kind of was like, oh, we'll just cancel it out. So,
gosh, I was innocent of this whole situation.
Do you remember that story, what happened? Was there any?
Yeah, I mean, you remember it better than I do, because honestly, Boy Scout trips felt like chaos constantly.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it seemed like it was like organized because we were doing Boy Scout things, and we were, surviving in the wilderness, and we were learning stuff and trying to do new things and learn knots and start fires, all that crap that you know about Boy Scouts. But also, there was so much stuff that happened during those periods of time, anything that was wild, anything that was frustrating, anything that was out of the normal did not seem to faze me or stick in my brain very well, because honestly, it was like I accepted the fact when I went on a trip that it was just going to be chaos for a while, and that things that are completely unpredictable were going to happen. All the way from, Tim falling out of a 20-foot tree, landing on top of this fat kid named Jacob and breaking his fall, to like Joshua destroying our Scoutmaster's absolute favorite spatula, and our Scoutmaster having a secret grudge against both of us, apparently. So, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that happened, big and small. But yeah, I mean, it's funny and also a bit if it's true that he held a grudge against you and took it out on me, I'm not okay with that.
I mean, I know, like you're saying, everything was hectic too. This was the next morning, so I know we never slept on these campouts. Like, we would try to stay up all night long. I know the Scoutmasters were like, go to bed.
We never tried.
Go. They were like, just go to bed. You need to sleep. We're going to go hiking the next day. But we were like, oh, we're having so much fun. We don't want to sleep. So we would like never sleep at all.
Yeah, I mean, for years, every time we'd be on campouts, we would just not sleep.
Yeah. So that was kind of a regular thing, too. And this was the next day, so completely sleep deprived, too.
Yeah. Let's do a quick ad, but before, I want to show a quick bonus. We've talked about him before, my friend Seth, but he just sent me a picture of his brand new skinhead. you like that? All right, let's go ahead and do an ad real quick, and we will be back. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode. If you haven't seen any of our videos up to this point, we're creating content under the name WiseWorks Entertainment. We want to make films. We want to create podcasts. We want to work with people. We want to do cool, creative things through the avenue of video and production. And so if you're watching this, then you're watching content being created by WiseWorks Entertainment. The primary place that we put out our content is on youtube.com. And that's probably where you're watching this right now. And so if you haven't subscribed to us on YouTube, we would love for you guys to do that. Honestly, it's the best way where you can find our content. It's the best way where you can keep updated when we come out with new content. And it's just a good place to keep informed when we come out with new stuff and get to know us even better. See all the content that we've created up to this point and going into the future. Yeah. So we would really appreciate it if you would just become one of the audience members for WiseWorks Entertainment. Subscribe to our channel so we know you're here, and we would greatly appreciate it.
It's true. Yep.
So getting into that was kind of Joshua's embarrassing story that he could just think up. I know he's had more embarrassing stories than that. But however, with my story, Joshua helped me remember it. But honestly, when he asked me, I didn't say it. I thought of it instantly, and I didn't say it because I didn't want to talk about it. And then Joshua brought it up. I don't know why he remembered. But so I'm going to tell you a little bit about my embarrassing story. When I tell it, it may not seem like a big deal. But to this day, when I think about it, my stomach turns a little bit. And I don't know why it was such a big deal. But I was a youngster when this happened. I was probably like 11 years old. I don't even think I was in Boy Scouts yet. I mean, I was just a high-pitched voice little kid. And
way back in your little crouton days.
I was speaking. You always say crouton. I realized that came from Olin Rogers.
It did. I thieved it.
I don't know if you guys watch Olin Rogers or have heard of him. You should check out his YouTube channel too. I mean, it's got some good stuff. But anyway, so yeah, when I was a little crouton, Joshua was a 2-year behind me crouton, and I was hanging out with this older kid at the time. He wasn't that old at the time, but he was older than me. And at our church or whatever, I knew I was going to get into Boy Scouts. I wanted to, when I first started going to this church that the Boy Scout troop was in, I wanted to get involved, but I had to wait until I was 11. So I might have been 10 at this time. And I was hanging out with this older kid who's in Boy Scouts, and he did a few things back then. I don't know if he was doing it at this time, but he was the guy that kind of cultivated inside me a desire to do filmmaking. Um, and it's not like that's what he did, but he kind of grew this interest in me through Scouts and just at something that he did for fun. But I was hanging out with him after church. He was being gracious and hanging out with someone a bit younger than him and almost probably babysitting. It wasn't like he enjoyed hanging out with me, I'm sure. But before we had hung out, and my mom had talked to me about how he's not a funny looking guy, but he has just a nose that's a bit larger than my nose. I mean,
What, you're blaming it on someone
an
else.
average
You're blaming it on
person's
someone
nose.
else.
I did this. I was just saying the reason why all this happened was because the idea was planted in my head. Okay, so I was hanging out with him. And I thought it would be funny if I told him that he had a big nose. And I thought it would be funny that I told him that people talk about him having a big nose. And I don't know why I just blurted that out. I was like 10 years old. And so I did that. He didn't really seem to respond negatively. I think he probably took it as a young kid's just saying whatever comes to his mind, which it was, you know? And so I went, and I can't remember exactly how, but my mother had found out that I told him that he had a funny looking nose. And she got real upset with me. She was like, that's so rude. You can't judge people on their looks. You can't make fun of them. And you certainly shouldn't be making fun of them. It's almost like bullying. And I was like, I didn't, my intentions were pure. I was just trying to be cool with him. He was so much older than me. And so my mom told me I had to call their family and get him on the phone, and I had to apologize. And do you remember when this was happening at the time, Joshua? Do you remember this going down?
I actually don't. I remember you telling it as a story like later on, but I don't remember any of this. So I guess I wasn't a part of it. I wasn't there when it happened. I wasn't a part of you calling, so I wasn't a part of any of it.
Well, I will say there's been a couple circumstances through our career where we've done prank calls with friends. We've done other things that's gotten us into trouble, and if we found out, we were always told we had to apologize.
Yeah.
And so we learned how to apologize pretty young. But with this was one of those first circumstances where I had to come before someone who I thought was really cool, who was older than me, who was like the status level of what I was trying to get to, and I had to humble myself even more than I already was and apologize and say I was wrong. Please don't hold this to my account. and when I called, it was really awkward because I wouldn't talk to this kid on the phone. I wouldn't talk to this guy on the phone anyway. I wouldn't be calling him and talking to him. So it was strange that I was calling him. And he got on the phone, and I was like, hey, I wanted to let you know I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it in a mean-spirited way when I told you you had a funny-looking nose. I just said it, what came to my mind. I didn't mean it. I hope you can forgive me, and I hope it didn't hurt your feelings. And he was cool. He was just like, yeah, it's all right. You don't worry about it. And I was like, I hung up the phone. I remember I was so angry at my mom for making me do that. I was so humiliated. I just felt like going away from people and weeping by myself. Like I was so humiliated by the whole experience. And I don't know, it really taught me, I'm sure it did what it intended to. It taught me that apologizing to someone that wasn't in your family, that you didn't know very well, is not as hard as it seems. But in that circumstance, my first time, that was very humiliating for me at the time. It left a little bit of a I don't know, a burden in my heart that I carry to this day. And I don't know why it was so embarrassing for me, but it was. And I still feel embarrassment when I think about it. And thank you for making me tell this on the podcast.
I don't remember it being that embarrassing to you because like you told it as a story and I don't remember it. So apparently it's not that
I can tell
embarrassing
you,
to anybody else but yourself. So
Joshua, you're my younger brother, and so the things that embarrass me, I tend to not talk about or give a lot of details about. Obviously, because I don't want to look dumb in front of you, but also because I'm trying to hide that I'm not super cool all the time. And so, yeah, you're not going to know how I feel about certain things that are the most embarrassing stuff that happened. Whereas I got a front row seat to all your embarrassment. And we need to explore that more and get an actual embarrassing story from you because I'm sure there's some really good ones.
well, I guess that can lead on to finishing up. If you have any embarrassing stories that you'd like us to tell, put them in the comments if you know us personally and you have any really embarrassing stories. It would be really entertaining to bring those back up. And
I'm not afraid to talk about them.
I'm
not afraid.
I mean, I'm willing if we had something. So whatever you got.
Did we talk about on the podcast already how we had prank called the pastor? Did we already talk about that?
We didn't, but I don't think we can get into that in this episode. Let's
maybe a different time.
That.
All right. Well, maybe not, but we'll see. Anyway, so thank you guys for watching. Please leave a comment. Let us know that you're watching these. Let us know if you like them. Let us know if you have an idea of something you want us to talk about. We're open and ready and excited to talk about the things that you bring to the table for us to talk about. So don't be shy. Yep. Let us know you're here. Let us know you're watching. And we'll greatly appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel so you can watch our videos that we come out with every single week.
Yep. And have a happy Thanksgiving and
happy Thanksgiving.
See you next week.
Thanksgiving's over. Thanksgiving is over.
Yeah, but we're recording this before Thanksgiving, so it will.
I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. All right. We'll talk to you guys next week.